And I would imagine we need to know, as you point out in your op-ed, whether people are contagious or not, whether we can count on the vaccine to have a beneficial effect on the spread in addition to protecting from the worst symptoms. Does it make someone less contagious? Do you know?
Right. And we've talked about this on the show. You've asked me about this before. We don't know the answer to that question. We don't know whether or not the vaccine just prevents signs and symptoms of COVID, which is what the trial demonstrated. People didn't get symptomatic COVID disease. Or is it also preventing some infections and making people less likely to spread the infection? Now, we assume that it's also probably preventing some infections. And we also assume from some of the primate studies that we did with vaccines, from these mRNA vaccines and vaccines more broadly, that it gives you what we call a non-sterilizing mucosal immunity, which basically means you have immunity at the site of the membranes where you'd be likely to shed the virus, like in your lungs or in your nose. And so you're less likely to shed the virus after vaccination. But these things need to be demonstrated. And the way we're going to prove this, by and large, is with post-market data by following people who've been vaccinated and seeing if they're less likely to spread the infection or get infected in the first place. There is going to be some data coming out of the clinical trials to answer this question. The manufacturers are looking at whether or not people who get vaccinated develop antibodies to other parts of the virus besides the part of the virus that the vaccine is designed to stimulate antibodies against. So the vaccine is designed to stimulate antibodies against the spike protein. But if you look at people's blood who got vaccinated and you see antibodies against other parts of the virus, like the nucleocapsid protein, that's an indication that they got infected and they just didn't get symptomatic. So there are ways to tell from the clinical trial data, but by and large, it's going to be the post-market data that we monitor to try to answer these questions definitively.